Hey, Ecom Masters, welcome to the show. My name is Mike Weiss, Chief Community Officer at Dropified, and as a thank you for tuning in to the e-commerce mastery show, we've put together a special podcast-only e-commerce training just for you. Now, in it, you're going to learn the ins and outs of how to set up your own brand of products where you can literally put your own labels, brands, logos, and messaging over top of top selling, in demand, high quality, high profit products that are exclusive to supplements, CBD, skincare, and pet products. And here's the key: no minimum order quantities, no upfront inventory costs. And I'm going to show you how to do this in literally minutes. Now, guys, we refined these principles over the course of 5 years with working with over 100,000 of our own e-compreneur customers just like you. So to get immediate 100% free access, all you got to do is go to dropified.com/podcast-special, or you can just click the link below and you're going to learn exactly how we do this in just minutes. Thank you so much for being part of the Dropified family and enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of E-Commerce Mastery. I'm your host, Ben Gothard, and today we have the honor of speaking with one of my good friends, a gentleman who came from nothing. He built himself up into an influencer on Instagram. He's dominated the internet marketing scene. He has millions and millions of people who follow him, who he reaches, who he influences, who he changes their lives on a daily basis. Chances are, if you're on Instagram, you have been influenced by this gentleman here because his reach is just phenomenal. The man, the legend, the guy who's going to teach you all about branding and how to do it the right way. My friend, Ryan White. How you doing today, man?
Dude, I appreciate you so much. I'm doing phenomenal. I appreciate you for having me on, and dude, the intro couldn't have been any more better. Like, that was perfect, man. So shout out to you for that intro, because that was on fire.
Well, with what you're doing in the world, moving and shifting, and you're 30, like, it's unbelievable. And happy birthday. I know it's pretty recent, and you just moved into your new house, so congratulations on all that. Man, you're on fire. So I want to break down for the people here how you got to where you are. What's your story?
For sure. So for me, man, it started out, I was a college baseball player. I was getting a bachelor's in accounting. And very quickly, after I graduated with my bachelor's in accounting and my playing days were over, I actually went to work, man, at Tennessee State Bank. I was working as a drive-through bank teller, literally making $11 an hour. And I remember getting excited about my 2-week paycheck being $770 in the bank, because never before in my life, again, as you alluded to, coming from humble beginnings, both parents, educators working for the state, I'd never had $1,000 in my personal bank account ever. So to finally get my first $1,200, I'm taking the screenshots, but obviously that was very short lived, because I wasn't really passionate about what I was doing. And so, at the time I was living in Tennessee, and I decided to move back home after college. I did the job for about 6 months, moved back in, and I said, man, I was really considering going the whole educational route. And I went back to my one true love, and that was baseball. So I had an opportunity in 2013 to move to Warner Robins, Georgia, which is like the Southeast hub for Little League baseball players, right? And so I became instructor, and coach for a top 3 travel organization in the world. And really in love, man. I loved what I was doing. I had 50, 60 kids coming in each week training with me. I was impacting lives. And, I was truly happy wearing gym shorts and a t-shirt going to work every day. But again, as I met my now wife, I knew very early on that she was going to be an important person, obviously, in my life. And I started to think about time freedom and what that truly looks like, because in the world of instruction and coaching, if you're not working or in the cage throwing baseballs or teaching a hitting lesson, you can't make money, right? I break my hand, very challenging to make money. And so I started playing with this whole idea of, when kids come one day, like I don't want to be, working when my kid's out of school, and I definitely don't want to have my off time when my kid's in school. And so I just started to truly think about, this whole linear income versus passive income idea. And I remember it like it was yesterday, man. Tuesday afternoon, going to a dentist appointment, the wheels started turning, and I was like, man, I don't know what it is I need to do, but something has to change. And I think that's a pivotal moment for people to hear, because it all starts with a thought. Literally, it can't come to be before the thought process happens, right? And so in order for you to move it into action and into existence, you have to have that thought. And that was the defining moment for me, when I had that motive, right, to go and do something. And again, future kids, future family as my why. Again, your why is super powerful in order to sustain why it is that you truly want to go and do something. Or you're going to try to go after something for 3 or 4 days, and the moment it gets tough, you'll quit. So having the thought process, the awakening, so to speak, the enlightenment that things need to change is one. Number two, obviously you need to determine the why do you truly want to go and do this factor. And for me, it was obviously time freedom, time with my family, with my kids. That was motivating enough for me to go and actually do the work. So then, I did that from 2013, 2017. I got this revelation, if you will, in 2017. And then, I was like, I need to grow my audience, right? And so I don't know what it is I need to do, but I need to grow my audience. And the easiest way that I could do that was focus on my Instagram. So I would go home after baseball lessons every night, at 8 or 9 o'clock. And my wife remembers the days, 10 p.m. to 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm doing research. I'm trying to figure out all the different ways back in 2017 that I can best increase my audience, right? And so I came across, through trial and error, if you will, I navigated to something that allowed me to grow my profile to like 10,000 followers a month. Absolutely no one else, at least that I knew of in my circle, was getting that type of growth. Naturally, people became aware this was happening and then sought me out for help. And then I said, man, this is kind of cool. I didn't really expect this to happen. But after 3 months, I would take everyone and put them in a Telegram group. And I realized I had like 100 people after like 90 days that I was serving, right? And helping go reach their goals, grow their audience. And so I said, there's something here. And so I tell people, did I ever truly think I was going to start a social media marketing company? Of course not. And so it kind of fell in my lap. And I think that's God's way of saying, hey, through obedience, you stepped into that in faith, and here's the blessing, right? And so naturally, I now, obviously, at the end of 2017, I start to compare, my passion in baseball with what I've making over here with the social, the digital marketing. Social Revelation is the agency name. And I looked and I saw that I was basically equivalent. So it's like, wait, my part-time hustle is making as much as my full-time gig. What would it look like if I basically burned all the ships to take the island and went all in this thing in 2018? And I'm glad that I did, because first year, 2018, we scaled to a 7-figure agency. So that's kind of been, and I now have evolved a little bit more, but I've had a social media marketing agency since March of 2017. Obviously, we're sitting here, August of 2020 talking now, and I still have Social Revelation. I have an e-commerce company, and I have Ron White University, which is very much like a Cardone University, where we're teaching people now how to best position themselves with branding, how to scale through social media, and inevitably make money in the online space.
That is amazing. And what's so incredible to me is how quickly you went from, let me help some people on Instagram with this cool thing and cool strategy that I figured out, to monster agency, huge network, massive influence, bunch of companies just absolutely killing it. Like, that to me is phenomenal, and is evidence that if you're doing things the right way, it doesn't take as long as some people might think to get from where you are to where you want to be. But you have to be taking the right steps. So let's give people the stepping stones. Let's give people the pathway so they can take the right steps. And we talked a little bit about, okay, well, there's so much to teach. There's so much to talk about. And we centered on branding, right? So let's talk about branding, how to do it the right way. Let's start with, what is it?
For sure. And just to kind of bridge a little bit, piggyback off what you were saying, it's like the Zig Ziglar quote, if you're willing to help enough other people get everything they want out of life, then 100%, you can get everything you want out of life and more. And so I just wanted to, throw that in there for the people listening, because it is a true thing. Become a servant first, and naturally, you'll be blessed. And so, but again, to answer your question, what is branding? I mean, I'm going to give, the people here literally the definition straight out of the book. And so, branding in and of itself is a brand is a name, a term, a design, a symbol, or any other feature that identifies one seller's good or services as distinct from those of other sellers. And so that's branding. And then you have the personal brand, which is also important. So the personal brand can be defined as an ongoing process of developing and maintaining a reputation and impression of an individual, group, or organization. And I think it's super important to understand those definitions if we're going to go properly execute one, right? And so, again, in its simplest form, that's a great definition. And then, one thing that I want to touch on is also, why should you even care about branding? So some benefits that you can get by caring about branding, or having a personal brand rather, would be, increased leverage, it increased reputation, increased network, increased credibility. You're going to have the ability to sell more. You're going to be considered as a thought leader. It's going to allow you the opportunity to build trust and eliminate confusion for people. It's going to give you the ability or the platform to tell your story. It's going to help you gain more clients. And it's 100% more than anything going to help you control that first impression, which we all know is so important.
That's powerful. And it seems like branding does a lot, and your personal brand and branding, the two of them clearly are working together here. It seems like we're really doing a lot and tackling a lot here. So if we could almost simplify that into like the core essence of what does branding do? Like the one biggest thing that branding does for you. How could we simplify that and boil it down to the essence there?
On the simplest kind of point, I guess it controls the first impression. It gives people insight into who you are, what it is that you do, and how you can help them. And I tell people that, especially with your social media, you have about 3 to 8 seconds to make that brand kind of awareness present. So whatever your imaging is, whatever your messaging is that you're trying to get out to people, you have 3 to 8 seconds to do that from the moment someone lands on your social media profile. And so again, how is it that what story are you trying to tell? What is the main things that you want the person landing on your page to draw from in conclusion after they're on your page for 3 to 8 seconds? And that in and of itself, whatever it is, whether it's the best fitness instructor, or whether I'm the best entrepreneur to teach people about branding, or whether I'm the best podcast host and I only interview, people who make over $10 million a year, whatever that specific thing is for you, it's about displaying that in the best possible way, in the most efficient way as possible.
That is incredible. So it seems like to me, in a word, it's almost clarity, and clarity from the perspective of when somebody interacts with any part of your brand, they instantly know why they need to work with you and why you are the person that they need to help them solve whatever it is that you're helping them solve. And that clarity, think about it. When you land on the page of somebody who's actually doing something of value versus somebody who's kind of just bullshitting it, and they're not really doing much. They're just kind of scattered. In Hebrew, the word is nebishi, like nothing. If you land on those two different brands, or interact with those two different brands, and that knowing is powerful. So now that we have really drilled down into what it is, why it's important, how do we do it?
For sure. That's a great question. And I think the biggest thing is understanding some key elements that go into creating a brand. And so the very first thing, that we touch on for most people, especially in 2020, is the social media profiles. It is super important, especially if you were trying to make money in the online space, that you have a presence on all of the channels. Now again, you can you can kind of focus on one. So if you're a photographer, obviously you could spend more time on Instagram because it's a visual platform. But that doesn't mean that you should neglect the other platforms, because again, in today's age, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the YouTubes, and the Twitters, I mean, we're talking millions of people around the world who, although you may not like Twitter, maybe 20% of your customer base does or comes from Twitter. So it's like we need to have a presence there. So understanding this is you need to have a Facebook, you need to have an Instagram, a YouTube, a LinkedIn, a TikTok. And then, we could go so deep with this. So I'll kind of touch on the high points, but some key elements to focus on, obviously within that realm, is you need to have a bio that represents who you are, right? Almost as if it's a resume type of format. If you're a best-selling author type of thing, put it in there. People need to see it. And, it's a great opportunity for you to sell yourself in your bio to people. And so obviously let's talk, we'll touch on, your feed obviously describes your branding, and I'll give a quick example, but like even on Instagram, you have 3 columns. So super important to maintain structure and consistency. If we broke every column down into a category, right, about my personal life, maybe about my business life. And then I maybe had, you see people a lot of times post, quotes or tweets that they put rather on Twitter, they screenshot it and put it there. But it just gives that structure so that you're maintaining your consistency a little bit better as you go. And then of course, your highlights is a big one. So posting stories. Another thing that's super important is maintaining the synergy throughout all of the channels. So imagine if Ben posted about giving educational advice on Instagram on how to become a podcaster, host, yourself to go and push a big podcast. But over here on Facebook, you're posting about trucks and cars and automobiles. That would create a lot of interference for people and would create confusion in terms of the branding, right? So synergy is a must. You need to make sure that you're maintaining across all platforms. And then understand a couple reflection questions, like what do you want your first impression to be? From the moment you shake someone's hand or the moment they go to your profile page, it's the exact same thing, whether it's in person or virtually. What do you want the first impression to be? And let's make sure that we're aligning with that goal, right? It wouldn't make sense for me to say, okay, well, I want people to see me as a top fitness instructor, but nothing in my content displays that I'm even into fitness. I don't post anything about me going to the gym, right? And obviously you can see how that wouldn't line up. And so another great question to ask is, what do I want to be known for? So maybe I don't yet have the content to put out, to create the first impression that I want, but what is it that I want to be known for? Maybe I can post some things that kind of relate more to that, kind of where I will see myself in 12 months, 24 months than where I'm currently at, just to give people kind of an insight into where my goals are, where my heart's at, where are my morals and values. And then obviously follower count plays a role, which we could touch on. And then the headers, you have a Facebook header, a Twitter header, a YouTube header, all of that. I have a graphics team because I obviously teach this stuff. So I have to make sure that my brand is on point. But if you go and look, you can look up Ryan White, you're going to see synergy across all those channels. And then, the last little thing I'll touch on here when it comes to social media is maybe you give yourself a nickname, almost a persona. So for me, it's at CEO Ryan White on Instagram, and I'm at CEO Ryan White on Facebook, and of course Twitter. Again, synergy, but that nickname is somebody that I'm able to tap into, right? Because I'm not always CEO Ryan White, right? That's only when I sit down and I do interviews. That's when I sit down at my computer and I do business. I'm just Ryan White when I'm with my wife and with my friends. So I think really having that, because sometimes when we put on that character, it allows us to tap into a part of us that maybe we don't even see for ourselves, if that makes sense.
Dude, that is so powerful. It's kind of like the Bruce Wayne Batman
100%.
type deal here. When he's Bruce Wayne, he's Bruce Wayne. He's the billionaire, he's suave, he's the man. And then when he's Batman, he's to every criminal out there, he's the most terrifying person on the face of the planet. And I love what you said about when you're doing business, when you're tapping into that persona, like you're drilled in, you are CEO Ryan White. And then when it's time to take that hat off and put the family hat on, the friend hat on, you can be Ryan White. And that's perfect. And I love also what you're talking about, the consistency and the synergy. If you pulled up Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, if you pulled up all those different accounts and scrolled through all of them, it should be one clear story. It should be one consistent experience. And that is unbelievably powerful. And it gives the people clarity. I mean, it's very intentional on our part as the brand and as the seller. And for the customer, it gives them that sense of, okay, this is a professional. This is somebody who gets it, or this is a brand who gets it. Like, they're not confusing me. They're giving me one message, and that message is really, really hitting home. That's brilliant.
Perfect. Yeah, man. I mean, you got it. And so it's funny because amongst my friends, my intimate friends, my close friends, when we go out and we hang together, there's this thing, and they're like, "Hey, man, are we going to get to see Ryan's secret?" So, see, Ryan's secret is completely different than CEO Ryan White. And so, people that see me or just work or social media, they have no idea. They've never heard of the term Ryan's secret, but my friends know exactly, and they'll start laughing because it's just, again, I've taken the hat off and I've put on something that's a completely different person when I'm just in my home in the backyard grilling with my buddies. So it's really cool because it's a thing that allows people to, even if they're not confident in themselves yet, it gives them a persona, a superhero, so to speak, right? That they can tap into and become that until they build the confidence, that is a part of them and that's who they are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we touched on social media, part of the branding side. What do we have next?
So the next thing, when you get the social media, down, obviously, is jumping into how important it is to set up a proper email signature. In 2020, man, it's proven by statistics there are actually more emails being sent out today more than any other time in modern day history. A lot of people think email marketing's went down, but the reality is there's actually emails have only went up. And so it's super important that your email signature is kind of telling that same story. And so, you know, I actually have branding students of mine where we go into depth and I give them a format, a template of how to properly execute the email signature. But again, your email signature needs to basically have a couple elements in it, which is, you got to have some credibility in there. So like if I send you an email, you would basically see, as seen in, and you would be able to click and see, me featured in Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur. You obviously need to have like a company statement, a personal branding statement, that kind of gives insight into who it is that you are, what's your purpose, what's your mission, what's your values. So one statement about that. And then of course, there's so many other different things that you can go with when it comes to it. But at the end of the day, it needs to show credibility. It needs to establish you as a thought leader. And then, again, it's just giving value, giving insight into who you are as a person in terms of, again, your morals, values, and that sort of thing.
Hi there, Ecom Masters. Mike Weiss here again with a friendly reminder that you've unlocked access to our exclusive podcast-only training on how to create your own supplement, CBD, pet, or skincare brand in just minutes, where we're going to break down from A to Z exactly how to put your own design on top-selling products and start selling in just minutes. It's incredible. Now, the principles that you're going to learn are exactly the same principles that we've used with our customers who did over $2 billion. That's right, with a B, $2 billion in sales last year alone. You cannot afford not to take me up on this free training. So to get immediate 100% complimentary access, all you got to do is go to dropified.com/podcast-special, or you can just click the link below in the show notes. I will see you soon.
Once you get the proper email signature, I tell people when it comes to branding, one thing a lot of people miss the boat on is if you're going to take this thing serious, and I've seen you've done this as well, but I think it's important for people to kind of have that signature or that featured image. And so, again, if you go across social media channels, how this all ties in is my profile picture, is me in front of the car, obviously, and it's got the orange background. I hired a guy, who came in. He was a expert obviously at what he does, phenomenal photo, but I've created that as my signature featured image so that as you navigate across different channels or you get an email from me and you see that, okay, staff@officialryanwhite.com in my inbox, that same signature or featured image is there. And it's almost like, when you recognize the Apple and you understand this is an Apple product, it's no different than seeing an email or a signatured image and understand that it came from me or the Ryan White brand.
Absolutely. And the beauty of that is it saves you so much time and effort because they already know what you stand for. They already know what you're about. They know the quality and the standard that you hold yourself and your brand to. And the branding is really doing the heavy lifting for you. And I love how you're utilizing all the different channels to keep that consistency amongst that. For example, I'm pretty sure I've never seen your hairstyle differ across all the social media channels. It's epic.
It's funny that you say that because even when I meet people in person, say we connect on Instagram and they flew into Atlanta and I meet up with them, they definitely say, dude, you look exactly as if you stepped out of your social media profile. And I'll immediately tell them, I'm like, dude, it's branding. And so it's funny because I tell my wife, she jokes about it, but it's like if I'm sitting over here, and not saying that I can't ever do an interview with my hat on backward, but I'm like, if I have the time, I'm like, hey, babe, I got an interview. So I'm like, I got to do my hair. And so she jokes and she's like, you better get on that, obviously before you go get on camera. But it's that whole idea of I understand how important that is for branding so that when I'm shaking someone's hand, it's like, that's the guy, that's him. And so, dude, I've literally, I take it serious, I really, really take it serious. But, dude, there's been so many things, so many compliments when it comes to, I just can't tell you how many DMs I've gotten on like how well my branding is on point.
Well, and it shows in the results. Like for people who don't want to take it seriously, that's dropping the ball on it. I mean, if we're really trying to take ourselves and our brand and our companies and our organizations to the next level, we can't drop the ball on these things. I mean, that is a critical piece. So I'd say kudos to you for taking it seriously. More people should take it more seriously. Absolutely. So, okay, we have our social media, we have our email signature, we have our superhero character, we got our hairstyle that everybody's going to recognize. What's next?
Perfect. So if you haven't done this already, again, schedule, that photo shoot, right? Get the high-end photo shoot done, not only for the signature photo, but because as we move into the next piece of our website, it's super important that we have a photo gallery, obviously, on that site. And then I'm going to tie this in, but you upload those photos from the high-end photo shoot again, based upon how you want to be perceived. So if I'm a businessman, I can go take, the BMW to the rooftop. I can sit in front of it. I can get all these photos. I can put them on my site on photo gallery for officialryanwhite.com, which is there. You can check it out if you're listening. But, and then what's super cool is if you do your SEO properly, okay, now when you're searching my name on Google, guess what's popping up on Google Images? Every single photo that I just put on my website that Google is now crawling in the photo gallery. So now you're seeing, and so what have I just done through my website is now I'm controlling the narrative. I'm controlling the first impression so that when someone types in Google for my name, I'm putting the images there that I want you to see.
That is powerful. So it seems like what we're really doing here is we're building structure within our organization to be able to accept and control to some extent the chaos of the outer world. Like we're building our foundation, our branding foundation here, so that all the craziness of the world, it gives us a vehicle to deal with that and to take control of the narrative and to go on the offensive in a good way, in a very positive way, to craft that story. So I wanna pose a question to you because we need to tie it in specifically to e-commerce here, right? For somebody who might be drop shipping or they're just starting their e-commerce brand, um, how can we tie these principles in? Are we gonna go out and work with somebody who's going to be the face of our company? Are we going to make ourselves the face of the company? Like, how do we tie all these things in to our e-commerce store?
For sure. So if you were doing e-com and you were sitting in front of me, I would ask you a couple questions. Number one, who do you want to be the face of it? Are we brand focused or are we individual focused or a team of people focused? That's super important because how we answer that question obviously determines where our energy goes. So if you want to be the face of it, or, obviously we could do the photo shoot around you. We could do all the positioning, all the SEO, all of the social media profiles, all of that could be centered around Ben. But if we wanted it to be product focused, and I'll say, we could talk about a water bottle just for the sake of there's a water bottle sitting right here. But, if that was I'm drop shipping water to people around the world, right? Because more people need water. What I could do is obviously I could go do a high-end photo shoot, obviously with showcasing my product, right? I could create a website, with, abcwater.com, and then create a photo gallery of those images so that it's crawled, that's the specific images that people see. I could create social media profiles with usernames of ABC water bottle, and then my content obviously would all tie into that. And my bio structure, right, would obviously be a resume type of format. So we're kind of posting our attributes, the highlights of like, why are we better than the competitor? Why should you drink our water versus someone else? And then again, so we have the social media tying in, right? We have, the headers, the content, the feed, all of that stuff looks good. And then obviously I have my photo shoot. I have a nice clean website with a photo gallery where all these images are popping up. So now they're also being picked up and crawled on Google Images so that when someone searches me up, I'm again controlling all of that narrative so that you see exactly the highlights of the water, the benefits of drinking the water, the images I want you to see. And so again, just putting that, obviously the rule of 8 or the rule of 7. Some people say 7, some people say 8, but in sales, you got to get those 7 or those 8 touches before someone's usually willing to, pull the trigger on making a purchase. And so again, using all of this stuff and even tying it into a proper email signature, which could be focused on articles that you go out and you establish around your water bottles. You could have them linked in your email signature along with obviously your mission statement, and maybe even some benefits in there on a video, that could link to YouTube, and then be a 60-second clip of someone drinking the water and then explaining, all of the benefits. The point is the web that we are building is all integrated. It's all integrated, and it's, as you already have mentioned, it's telling the same story multiple times, getting in those 7 to 8 touches. And when you do that, you are naturally going to create a pretty massive funnel.
That's incredible. And I love how, again, it really seems like we're going back to being intentional and being really clear. So are we going to be the face of our e-commerce store? Are we going to work with somebody else who's going to be the face of the store? Is it going to be a team of people? Is it going to be like the Geico Gecko deal where we're going to use some sort of character and let the branding revolve around that? But whatever it is, make the decision and then stay consistent around that. That's super powerful. Okay, what's next? What's our next step here?
For sure. So as I kind of mentioned to a little bit, I alluded, but digital press publications is such a major thing when we're talking about branding in and of itself, because you're establishing now your positioning as an expert or as a thought leader in whatever industry it is that you're in. And I never really understood this until I was about, honestly, a year into my business. I had kind of already scaled to a 7-figure company, but then I had someone approach me and they were like, "Hey, Ryan, I see you don't do a whole lot with, PR. You might want to look into this because I really think it could take you to the next level." And so obviously at that time I had a little bit of cash flow, and I was so new to the scene. I started, lightly kind of treading and just educating myself. Because if you don't know about something, educate yourself. You have to get exposed to the information somehow, whether you hire a mentor or you buy into a program. Nothing can change if you're not exposed to the information, because you don't know what you don't know. And so, obviously it's super powerful what we're discussing here on the podcast, but understand, guys, that we're literally scratching the surface of this thing. And, going back to the digital press publications, it's going to, again, allow you to control the narrative. So you get to create the first impression angle, which is super important when it comes to people viewing you for the very first time. Right? Because, you've heard it 1,000 times from your mother. You only get one first impression, right? You can't walk out of the room and walk back in the room again and get the first impression. But, the first impression angle is just so important. And then there's 2 ways really to go about getting digital PR. So let's talk about tactically, how do we do it? Number 1 is you start small and then you leverage your way up. So that would be, maybe I go get a BuzzFeed community writer to feature me. And then I move to the Huffington Post. And then I use, hey, I got, as I'm reaching out to other contributors, hey, I have BuzzFeed and Huffington Post. Would you be interested in featuring me on business.com? Yes, I get that locked down. And then now, hey, I got BuzzFeed, Huffington Post, business.com. Maybe I'm pitching influensive. And then when I get influensive, I'm leveraging that to get on Entrepreneur, leveraging all of that to get on Forbes. And obviously Forbes and USA Today, New York Times, you just continue to take what you have and build it and leverage up. Now, this could take obviously weeks, months, years, depending upon how good you are at positioning yourself, how good you are at pitching. But on the flip side, obviously, as with most things in life, if you have a budget, you can pay your way to go faster. So that's where, agencies like, ourselves, we have the ability, obviously, because we've built relationships with other writers, we have the ability to get good stories featured. Um, Obviously, if you have a budget to work with, you can kind of pay your way, and a lot of people do that. Um, Again, it's a super cool way. And so I've just noticed that in terms of creating yourself as a thought leader and to create, some credibility and some leverage for your brand very quickly. Again, even if you have, $500, like going and grabbing a couple, even 2 to 3 small articles could be a complete game changer when it comes to actually closing people. And so I've just seen, here's a prime example that we ain't even talked about yet. But if you notice right here, here's a business card of myself. And if you look down in the bottom right hand corner, I have, the Inc. verified profile. And then when I hand it to people, I intentionally will usually turn it over when I'm finishing, obviously talking to them. And I have the Forbes logo because obviously I'm featured in Forbes many times. And so, when I put that in their hand and they see Forbes, it's like you can see it in their eyes, something changes. I mean, literally there's a switch that goes off, and that 20-minute pitch literally just turned into a 2-minute pitch. And they're like, hey, where do I get started? Because I'm leveraging the Inc. and the Forbes to basically do the speaking for me. It's like, I don't know who you are, but I know who Inc. is and I know who Forbes is. And not everybody has that. And so literally you can just see how it compresses the sales process. And, again, to me, time is money. So if I can condense and save time, there's not really a dollar amount that I wouldn't pay to go and do that.
That is powerful. And I love the 2 ways that you gave to go about and build in these publication and exposure in these publications. One of starting smaller and maybe starting with a BuzzFeed or a smaller publication and getting featured there, and then using that to pitch the next one and the next one and the next one. And eventually you'll build up to the big boys. Or if you have some money and you want to expedite the process, just pay your way in. Awesome. And I'm sure there are ways to leverage them, or maybe you pay your way in for the first one and then you use that to leverage, or you leverage that to get other ones. So I love the 2 different angles here, and I think that's extremely powerful. So, okay, now we have our PR here. What are we doing next?
For sure. So once we have the PR, it's now time to leverage the PR on our social media channels, on our business cards, like I just showed you, on our website. Obviously, we want to have a publicity page, which everybody has, that we list our articles and tie back to. That's also great for backlinks, for your Google SEO, for all my SEO fans out there. And then, of course, for your email signature, so of course, when I email people, I have my articles tied into my signature. I have literally the Inc. logo is in there, the Forbes featured is in there. And so again, it's like anytime I send an email, to someone or reply to someone emailing me, my branding is constantly selling the narrative for myself without me even having to. I've actually gotten clients, I've gotten podcast opportunities, I've gotten television opportunities just from replying to someone who reached out to me. And then the email signature, they go clicking through links and they've seen that I've been on television, a couple of times. I've been featured in Forbes Inc. Entrepreneur, and they're like, I need to have this guy on. And so it's like the email and the branding, because I've leveraged it properly, is doing the selling for me 24/7. So I don't even think about it, obviously, when I reply to an email, but because it's there, it's always working. And so the leverage would be the next thing. And then once we've kind of tackled the leverage, I would say the next thing is record a professional video of you basically giving some value to people. And we're going to use that to basically post on YouTube, IGTV, and our stories. And that's super important because we have to get our knowledge, right? Our value out to the people. It's no different than you hearing me on a podcast right now. If Ben didn't have me on, this information really doesn't help you if you were never exposed to it, right? So I would just be sitting over here with all this branding knowledge, right? But you're not really benefiting, and there's definitely no opportunity for you listening right now to come and work with me had this exposure not taken place. And so it's super important for you to show people what you're talking about. And so if you don't have the opportunity to go on some podcasts right now, then you can do something as simple as turning your iPhone camera around, recording a video, and posting it on your social media channels.
That is powerful. So it seems like everything we've been talking about has been foundational of let's set up the brand, let's get everything rocking and rolling, let's build the infrastructure. Now this seems like we're going on the offensive and we're pushing our message out to the world. That is extremely, extremely powerful. And Ryan, I know there's so much more to it, and there's so many more things here that we couldn't possibly cover in this short time. And of course, I want to be very respectful of your time as well. So, we really just scratched the surface. Um, where can people go to get more of this? Because there's no way we're going to be able to get to it all right now. There's so much more. What's the next step? Because now I feel like we've broken into the awareness of, we know we need to get a hold of this thing called branding. We know what it is. We know why it's important. We have some steps to get us started, but it's not enough. Like we need more. What's the next step? How do we really drill down into the specifics of, like, click this, press that, do this right here, of like the technical how to? Where do we go to get that?
For sure. So one thing, obviously, that I'm going to do to give value to your specific people is I'm going to give you an exclusive link for your viewers, for your listeners, right? So I'm going to give them access to a coaching program that I have if you want to go deeper. And this is a very one-on-one type of format where I coach you through the entire thing. And understand that this is not a link that I'm pushing out publicly. This is something that will be specific to everyone listening here. So, again, if you're following Ben, listening to Ben, and he's, this is kind of extra value for you, so to speak, for being a part of this journey with us today. And so, yeah, 100%. I have a full 10-week program. We literally take all the different elements. I break them down. We spend a week on each one. And literally, I'm jumping on for 60 minutes. And I'm basically going really, really deep instead of really wide. And so we're really getting into the meat of everything that's here. And if that sounds something that interests you and you really want to level up your game and take it to the next level, and maybe you're a six-figure, somebody who has a six-figure business and you want to scale maybe to 7 or 8 figures, this is your golden ticket. Your branding has to be on point to get there. And so if that's something you're interested in, I'm going to get you the link, Ben, and all you need to do is get it out to your people, probably in a link somewhere. And I'd be more than ecstatic to make this thing happen for anybody who wants to do so.
Absolutely. So everybody who's watching and listening, I want to just direct you to that link. You can find that either if you're on video in the description below, or on podcast, you can see it in the show notes there. So make sure to go and click it, and you'll see it's a pretty big link. And that's because this is not live. Ryan did this just for us. So thank you very much for that extra effort here. I really do appreciate it. And if you're wondering, well, why would I go do that? Why would I go and take that next step there? I just want to paint a picture for you of a year from now, 2 years from now, and think about where you are, and just reflecting on some of the things we've talked about already. You have work to do. There are things that are slipping through the cracks, that are not optimized. They're not built. They're not ready to go. You're not reaching the amount of people that you want and need to reach in order to scale. That's where you are now. In a year, in 2 years from now, you could be at a place that you've always dreamed of, and you haven't exactly known the specific steps to take to get there. Ryan can guide you there, and he could serve as a resource for you, as a guide to bring you along that journey, and to add an extra zero to the end of your revenue, to add an extra zero to the end of your bank account, to add an extra zero to the amount of profit that you have, to the amount of freedom that you have in your life. And that is invaluable. There's no price tag you can put on the amount of freedom that you have in your life. And this is a critical component. If you think about your business, if you think about entrepreneurship, it is a structure. there are many moving parts. One foundational piece, one of the most important foundational pieces, is your branding. And this is your opportunity to conquer it right now. Get it done now so you never have to worry about it. And so when you're looking back 2 years from now, you can think to yourself, I heard on this one podcast episode with this one epic guest, Ryan, I heard about branding, and I clicked that link in the description in the show notes, and I saw what it really is that we were talking about. That was an inflection point in my life, and I'll never forget that day. That's what I want for you. So do yourself a favor, take control now, take advantage now, and go ahead and click that link.
Yeah, and that's perfect that you said that, Ben. You know, the reality is so many people get focused, right? They place all the emphasis on letter Z, right? We're at letter A right now, and we get so focused on letter Z, but we never put any focus on the vehicle that's going to transport us from A to Z. And so this right here, if the 2 year, the 5 year plan that Ben just alluded to is point Z, we have to have a vehicle to get us there. And this 100%, I can just go ahead and put my personal guarantee. This can be a vehicle for you to get you there. And then we just have to ask a couple questions, if not you, then who? If not now, then when? And if not this, then what? And the reality is like, if this isn't it, you at least need to have a vehicle or a plan to getting you from A to Z. And so I would ask you, again, if not this, then what is your plan? Is there a plan? Because again, if we have no plan, we have no vision, and we're just basically pulling and shooting at targets that aren't even there, right? You can't hit a target that we do not set. And the reality is this can be the vehicle that moves you from point A to point Z. And so if you think this can be the vehicle, we would love to have you. I would love to have you. And I've just seen this touch and serve so many people. I know it can serve you as well.
Fantastic. So Ryan, I want to thank you as always. It's such an honor and a pleasure to get to chat with you every time that we do. Thank you very much. You're the man. And thank you to everybody who's watching and listening. Y'all are the best. Y'all rock. And I will see everybody on the next episode.
Hello again, Ecom Masters. Mike Weiss here again with a big thank you for sticking with us to the end of this episode. I know how valuable your time is, and I want to congratulate you for setting yourself apart from the pack by investing your attention into this podcast. Now, make sure to maximize this time by taking notes while it's still fresh, listening to the episode multiple times if you need to, and implementing what you have learned right away into your own business. Now, if you're looking for a little bit more training and want to learn the step-by-step methodology that you need to build the e-com business of your dreams, I want you to join me for an exclusive invite-only training that I'm only giving specifically for podcast listeners. Now, in it, we're going to share the secrets of what we've used to scale Dropified into the 2019 5,000 number 55 fastest growing company in America. You will not find this information anywhere else, guaranteed. To get immediate 100% free access, all you got to do is go to dropified.com/podcast-special, or just click the link below and in the show notes, and I will see you on the other side.